Listen, I don't know if you've noticed, but from the year 1619, when the first Africans came to America, to 2019, nothing has been the same since. Ever since 2019, the world went into this weird phase, especially if you are in the Western world. And today, we want to break it down. So walk with me for a moment because we're going to go back in history and then we're going to tie it into what's happening right now and what you should be doing as someone that's aware of these changes that are happening in the world. So in 1619, a ship arrived at Point Comfort in what is now referred to as Virginia. On board were captured Africans brought into developing colonial systems that required labor to expand agricultural production. But this moment didn't necessarily create the slave trade, but it did mark the beginning of a structured economic dependency that would evolve over centuries and centuries. Now, obviously, this is before 1776 and the invention of America. But let's keep walking down this road together. Throughout the 17th and the 18th centuries, European colonial powers constructed economies around extraction, exploitation, like tobacco, sugar, cotton, all requiring a large labor force that they just did not have the expertise or experience to implement themselves. So the transatlantic slave trade became that market that they needed to expand. Millions were displaced, not for migration, but for production. And the system was not only about labor, it was about scale.
This is something that a lot of people, kind of bypass in a way. I know that there is a lot of stuff going on right now, but this is something very important that, a lot of people don't talk about, and when you do talk about it, you can kind of feel like, wow, this is our history in a way. And of course, what they did, they came and got the most powerful, most agile, most hardworking Africans, right? That can withstand the sun, that can continue to work all day and have that endurance. So I just want to say, what my wife is reading right now, you have to know you can endure whatever that is in front of you. And, it's in our history, it's in our DNA. So just how she said 1619 to 2019, that's a big shift. And I'm not sure if a lot of people felt it then, but I know that we did. It was something pulling us saying like, hey, 2019, it's a big shift. Like we have to figure something out. It's time to go. So we are reading this to you guys. So maybe this can trigger something in you and let you know, hey, it's about that time. It's been that time. So this is something serious that you really have to think about and really know. Don't let it pass by you because all the distractions that's happening right now.
Yes, and listen, by the late 1700s, the Atlantic world was economically integrated. Goods moved from America to Europe, right? The good old days of the Western civilizations, the Western economies. Manufactured items moved through Africa, and people who were enslaved were transported across the oceans. Wealth accumulated rapidly in these colonial economies. And this would later become known as the United States of America, because by 1776, the American colonies declared independence from the Great British Crown, but the economic engine remained intact. No independence for the enslaved people that were from Africa. Slavery expanded westward, becoming deeply embedded into the national growth. Now, cotton was the main commodity in particular, and it became central. Then in the 1800s, the United States supplied the majority of the world's cotton. This was really their first wealth engine that positioned America as the top country in the world, feeding the textile mills of the British economy and all of Europe. Then came the disruption, which was the Civil War, which we know, The Civil War was fought between the North and the South in order to free the slaves technically, but it did not dismantle the total economic structure behind enslavement. Sharecropping, convict leasing, and wage suppression were all well and alive by the late 19th and 20th centuries. Now, this takes us to the Great Migration. My family was part of the Great Migration out of the South. These were the people who said, you know what? I think there's enough trauma, drama, and stress down here. I think we've done enough for these masters. It's time for us to go north and to create a better opportunity for ourselves, for our families, getting college educations, doing whatever they needed to do, starting businesses, some moving westward, even to start the Black Wall Streets, which we know went down in government operations, literal war on American soil against people who were now American citizens. But again, the movement that followed was constrained because even in the North, there was housing discrimination, redlining, unequal access to capital linked with wealth accumulation. And while labor systems had technically changed, access to economic power remained uneven. Now, let's come to the future, the 20th century, because the two worlds have reshaped global power. The United States obviously emerged as the dominant global power in such a short amount of time. And the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944 established the US dollar as the global reserve currency, tying international trade to the American financial system. And this was a huge turning point in history. Now, by the time 2019 came around, everybody would talk about how 400 years have passed, and they were speaking about 1619 when the first enslaved Africans had arrived. Even Donald Trump at that time had signed a document commemorating the 400 years that had passed. And not only us, but a lot of people felt the shift. So much, in fact, that now in 2026, not only are Black Americans leaving, but white Americans are leaving, going to Italy, going to Spain. Some come to the African islands.
Going to
People are leaving America as if some type of huge exodus just occurred. But there's no sign, there's no billboard in the States that says, here, exodus this way. It's literally just people feeling that something's not right within and they have to get out before 2030 occurs.
Yeah, that's a for sure. 2030 is something that is going to be a big shift again. So I do want to say this because you were saying it a lot of 1619 when the first enslaved Africans came to America. We know our people was all over the world. You get what I'm saying? So this is something that, you know, is crazy. It's judgment where the Most High allowed this stuff to happen. So if you don't know the spiritual meaning of it, this was supposed to happen. And we say spiritual because it's always going to be spiritual first. So this is why we're saying, hey, there's like a shift, there's an exodus. I'm pretty sure we were the only people that felt it. A lot of people are leaving, and it's not just about a physical type of, okay, you're going to get lifted up and you're going to move out. No, there's going to be a calling. There's going to be something that's pulling you to do something, right? That's spiritual. That's something that you have to follow. And if you're not following that calling or that guidance that leads you and guides you every day, that wakes you up, you get what I'm saying? I don't know what to say, but it's always going to be spiritual first. This is something that a lot of people like let go over their head. This is something that we were just talking about last night in a Mature Adult Intensive, bringing up how, you know, it's really up. The most important thing when you are thinking about moving is following what the Most High is telling you. Like really praying and asking him, is this something that I need to do? Is this something that you are calling me to do? Is this something that you are guiding me to do? That's the most important thing. Any decision, every decision, especially if it's a big decision, like moving to a whole nother country. And you will notice time after time, if everything is falling in place, I'm pretty sure it is the spirit leading you to do something. But if things are falling apart, I'm pretty sure you might have to think of something else or move a certain way, plan differently, have a different strategy and stuff. But I know what my wife was reading right now is more spiritual. So always think through a spiritual lens when you are listening to things like this. It's always going to be like a shift after shift. So how she broke down, 1619, then it came to 1776, right? It was a big shift. And then when it came to the Civil War, that was a big shift. And then when it came to, migrating to, the North, that was a big shift. And then when it came down to the US dollar being the most powerful currency,
global reserve,
right? That was a big shift. Right now, this is a big shift that's happening. That's what you have to understand. And 2030 is going to be, I want to say, I just don't know. It's going to be something big that happens before then. But this right now is the time to really think about your next move. Because if you miss this time, I'm telling you, this is probably the last time of freedom, because there's going to be a lot of control that's going to be happening pretty soon.
Right. It's almost like the world is in a type of golden age right now, right? Obviously, you were not born enslaved. You were not born into Jim Crow. You were not born into a lot of these things. It's never been easier to start a business and become profitable and to have that business get you residency in other countries. It's never been easier to get these long-term residence permits in these countries. There's literally not really a better time in recent history or in any history for you who are watching this channel to gain freedom in a new way, but the window is closing. The door is closing. If you were to do your research and look at Palantir and what they have planned, if you were to do your research and understand what AI actually is and actually represents, outside of creativity and entrepreneurship and those things that are positive and good, there's also a very dark side of a super controlled surveillance society that will exist in the Americas and in the Western world, of course in China as well, and some of those top economies, but certain nations are going to get forgotten about. Like a Mauritius, like a Madagascar, like a Seychelles, like some of these places that you have never even heard of or know that exist. And so this is your time to prepare, to decide what you're going to do, to decide and come into covenant with the fact, hey, am I going to go through this new shift in America, or will you stay behind like some of those who stayed behind in the Great Migration? I, for one, I'm so happy my family was not the type to stay behind and actually went forth through with the Great Migration to go north, because it positioned me to be where I am today, speaking to you from an island in Africa, but technically in the Indian Ocean. So will you be the one in your family that's going to change your entire trajectory, or will you be staying in the same place for another 400 years?
Dang, that's deep. That's deep. And you said something with certain companies, right? It's always going to be the same families, guys. It's the same families that's doing all this, that's controlling a lot of stuff. So, the choice is yours. The choice is yours. Are you going to be the one that change and break the generation? I guess I could say the generational curse for your family. So,
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. Make sure you like the video, leave your comments below, and we'll talk to you in the next one.
Shalom, shalom.